It's the Unhappy Hour.
Broadcasting to you live from the Milky Way Galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, North America, the United States of America, California, Los Angeles to be specific. Hello everybody and welcome to the Unhappy Hour. It's a place where us Cleveland Cavaliers, Indians, and Browns fans get together. You know, it's like the happy hour, except we haven't had championships to celebrate it since way back in 1964. Kennedy was killed, what was that, 63? I mean, think how long ago 1964 was. It's been a long time since Cleveland sports fans have been able to celebrate a championship. However, things are looking up. Things are looking up. Terry Francona is a pretty good coach over there for the Cleveland Indians. Corey Kluber wins the Cy Young. That's fantastic. Rookie that we drafted, Kyrie Irving, re-signed, and then another rookie we drafted, LeBron James, decided to come back after his Rumspringa, that Amish period where you go enter society and you branch out off on your own, and then you decide if you want to come back to the order. Well, he came back to Cleveland and brought Kevin Love with him. So things are looking up for the Cleveland Cavaliers for sure. Then there's the Browns. They looked fantastic for a lot of the year and really have just, the wheels have come off. The wheels have just fallen off of this beast lately. But hey, you know, there's a lot to be excited about in Cleveland sports. And let's not forget, let's go a little bit down Route 71, shall we, and get to the Ohio State University, the Buckeyes, Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer has led this team through 3 quarterbacks. Braxton Miller, before the season even started, Heisman candidate, blows out his shoulder, and then J.T. Barrett blows out his ankle, and then Cardale Jones comes in and blows out Wisconsin. Go figure. So now we got Alabama coming up. And it's a really interesting time to be a Cleveland sports fan. I gotta tell you, it's a good time, and we have had conversations in the past with, well, if you grew up around Cleveland, you may be familiar with him. He's a man who, well, let's just say 11 Emmys. How many Emmys do you have? Let me just ask you, how many Emmys do you have? Probably not as many as John Telich from Fox 8 Cleveland. He was one of the first guests that we brought into the show back when Sean Flynn was engineering the program. This had to be 3.5 years ago. Had him on a couple times since, but to give us perspective into both what it means to be a Cleveland sports fan, because really, if you're not one of us, you really don't get it. You know, maybe your one team hasn't been good for, the Cubs, they haven't won in 100 years. Yeah? Did you have the Blackhawks? Did you have the Bulls? Did you have the Bears? Then don't whine to me about your Cubs. You've had something to cheer for. Cleveland hasn't. But that's why we're so happy to bring John Telich in the program. It'll be just a moment. But real quick, if you haven't checked out our homepage, it's thenewamericanmedia.com. And on the middle right-hand side, it's our TNAM radio link. That's where you click play to listen live. And then underneath that, it's our Facebook feed. You can also do a search for The New American Media with spaces in between and like the page. And under that, it's our Twitter feed. We're at American_media_. And for all of our archived content, yes, it's on our homepage, but it's also at youtube.com/The New American Media. So without further delay, let's bring John Telich back into the program.
Hello there. I'm so sorry about that. Hopefully we didn't screw things up here for you.
Oh, John, welcome back to the program. I was telling people that you were one of our first guests in the first few months that we launched the show about 3.5 years ago, and you've been on a few times since. But that's the beauty of being on non-terrestrial radio or television is we fire this up when we want. It's kind of fly by the seat of your pants, and you do the best you can. Kind of like
you do what you can.
Absolutely. So no sweat at all. Thanks for joining us again. I certainly appreciate it. Yeah. John, I just wanted to ask real quick, 11 Emmys. Do you ever just stop and pause and say, you know, I did pretty good. Does that ever hit you in that way, where you just kind of sit back and have that moment of realization that at least 11 times it's no fluke? People seem to really respect the work that you're doing.
I don't know about that. I just say it's always been a team effort as far as that's concerned. So, when you're fortunate to do that, you just say, "Wait, kudos to the team," because it's more about the team than the individual. And then if it doesn't work out, then you just say, "Hey, it's the system. It's fair. It's honest," and you just didn't happen to be able to prevail in this regards. It happens to the best of them, and you just enjoy it and you move on.
You sound like you could also be a head coach or a director of player personnel for one of these teams. I'll tell you what, that's a very political answer.
Thanks. You know what? I think in this is a political world we live in, so we'll just leave it at that.
Hey,
So you got to play the game.
And I'll tell you what, if you ever want to join us on Agree to Disagree, that's our political show. You have an open invitation. Should you ever want to jump in the ring with that?
I'm such a neophyte when it comes to I hold discussions on sports, and we always joke it's kind of like the playground of life. I mean, you get me into politics and you get me into this life and death related stuff, and I am a fish out of water. So I would be so unprepared to handle that kind of conversation. I get intimidated, to be honest with you,
really?
If I'm out and then people start talking about a lot of the political discourse and what have you, and I can throw in my 2 cents here and there, but I certainly can't. I can barely keep my head above water in that regard, but when you're talking sports, obviously that's a little bit more in my wheelhouse, so I think I can handle it.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've been, like I said, I've been doing this for the past 3.5 years with these 2 radio shows, and sometimes I do politics because I need to get my mind away from sports because it's so frustrating being a sports fan. Usually people say, like Mike Polk Jr., I'm sure you're familiar with him, the comedian from Cleveland. If you guys haven't checked him out, look him up, Google him on YouTube. Mike Polk Jr., he's hilarious. But he says something in his epic rant at the empty stadium. He says something, look, I know that there are more important things in life than sports, and you are supposed to be my pleasant distraction from those things. But unfortunately, as a Cleveland fan, you get so angry sometimes with sports, and you're so disappointed and so let down, and it's almost like I have to turn to politics to get my head straight after a Browns loss, especially after this one last week.
When you sit back and think about that the absurdity of what you just said, but I totally understand your statement. But that's how it's been for Cleveland sports fans, where you would just entertain the option of talking about issues that are going on in this world today that obviously are more weighty than sports in general, but still you need those things to get you away from what really gnaws at the inside of you, and that's why your Cleveland sports teams can't win anything after now 50 years and going, that you have not had a championship. But I totally get what you're saying. Absolutely get it.
Yeah, it's insane because if people, I led off in the intro, I was talking about the Cubs fans. Oh, the Cubs haven't won in 100 years. You know what? You had Walter Payton, you had Jordan, you had the Blackhawks. Shut up. You got no reason to complain. And even the Red Sox when they were bellyaching. I think Boston's had quite a few teams. Larry Bird, thank you very much. But
oh my gosh.
If you're not from Cleveland, you really don't get it, and that's why I want to get back to this because you mentioned being a part of a great team. Obviously, Emmys don't happen for one person being brilliant. Of course, it is a team, obviously. However, something your team did last week with Marvin Lewis and Lil John. I have to ask you, but can you please set this up, hit the reset button, explain what happened? Because I'm telling you what, that moment goes in the top 100 Cleveland sports moments of all time. Give it 91, 93, 94, but it makes the top 100. It was absolutely hilarious.
Well, I don't know if people are aware, but a week and a half ago, almost 2 weeks ago, Marvin Lewis on a radio show did an interview about what do you do against Johnny Manziel, his first start, and he made a flip remark about we'll deal with that midget, something else. So all of a sudden he found himself defending, or at least being apologetic towards anybody that never passed high enough to ride on the roller coasters at Cedar Point, if you want to get my drift there. And so he felt compelled, and he was so professional about it. I still remember the quote that made me chuckle, that he said, I went on the website of the Association of Little People of America, or whatever they are called, and I'm sure they're very honorable people, but he said, I went on that website and I did my research and I realized this, that, and the other, so I sincerely apologize. he called the Browns. He apologized to the people in the Browns. I mean, he probably apologized to 10 people in the Browns organization. And so the brainchild of this little caper, and we will call it a caper, was none other than our upper management guys, our news director and our assistant news director. That's Andy Fishman and Mark Singer. And they said, well, listen, John Rinaldi is speaking of people that have won a few awards. John Rinaldi is in the Cleveland Association of Broadcasters Hall of Fame. He's been on television here in Cleveland for the past 35, 40. He's been on TV. And so the premise was you go to Cincinnati and you get in that news conference where he was going to apologize, and you get into that news conference and you ask him some questions, but you ask him legitimate football questions.
Right.
And that's exactly what John did. John was all on board. You know, John is actually the owner of a jewelry store in Solon, Ohio, and when he's not on TV, that's what he does. So he said, this is great. It was my day off, so he took a drive down with our PJ Ziegler, who does our weekend sports here, and is a great young sports broadcaster that we have at Fox 8. And they went down and they did it. And the bottom line of this whole thing is that the Bengals could not have been nicer, more gracious, more accepting of the fact that, whoops, hey, you know, it happened, and we sincerely apologize, and let's move on. And Marvin was tremendous. And I was a little worried about that because, you know, there could be people that take it the wrong way, and I was worried about how other people in the media would take it. And frankly, you know, probably 95, 97% was for how it went about and how it happened and how it was pulled off. And I was great with that. And the few people that had a problem with it, I totally understand their point of view, but there was never any intent to embarrass Marvin. And frankly, he asked legitimate football questions that needed to be answered, and Marvin was great. Marvin was referring to, after he asked him the first question, about 4 or 5 minutes later, he had a second one, and Marvin referred back to the first question that he had. And I mean, Marvin was incredibly professional, and I was blown away by how. And then the response was just through the roof. I mean, I couldn't believe how many people came to our website to see the video, how many people saw the pictures of Lil John asking him the questions. The only thing that didn't happen, I think when they were planning, quote, the caper, they wanted him to be standing on a chair to ask the question. But that didn't happen. John got a front row seat, and there he was sitting in his chair in the front row and asking Marvin, and Marvin couldn't have been nicer to him. It was pretty funny, but again, it never did they intend to, you know, make this as a point of to. First of all, John Rinaldi is not offended at all by what Marvin said about Johnny Manziel. I mean, let's be honest. John Rinaldi refers to himself on television as Lil John. So anybody that refers to themselves as Lil John, it would not take offense to anybody using that term that Marvin did.
Yeah, and for those people that aren't familiar, no, we're not talking about Lil John the rapper. For anyone that isn't exactly clear, explain who Big Chuck and Lil John are for this, you know, over the past several decades.
Well, they've been for many years. They were a late night show that, you know, they played movies and they did great skits. And frankly, a lot of the skits that they did over the years were, you know, some of those were kind of a certain ethnic, you know, painter. They would do jokes about various. First of all, the host of the show, Big Chuck, was a man of Polish descent, so he poked fun at Polish people quite a bit. And if you're a Clevelander, you know all the jokes about Parma, Ohio, and you know the jokes about White Sox and all that sort of stuff. And they played right into it. And obviously, John played a zillion different characters because, you know, he's a little guy, and you know they have him dressed up have him in a dress and wearing a woman's wig for some of their skits and what have you. And so they were very popular, and the show had been on the air for years and years and still continues in reruns to this day. And everything that they have done in that show has been all the skits, every joke. It's never been something that you wouldn't want a kid to see. It's never been. They've never used the F-bomb, or you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's PG stuff.
It's PG stuff all the way. And you know, so John's still on TV to this day doing commercials for various things, and so is Chuck. Chuck just had his 80th birthday not not that long ago. And so when you say Big Chuck and Little John, you're talking about Cleveland, Ohio, and people here get that. They really do.
And I just thought it was absolutely hilarious. Kudos to your entire team. Seriously, tell them out here in California, I caught wind of that, and my jaw dropped. And my
our news director sent out a picture on Facebook, and it was a picture of he and John and Mark, the three of them having a nice dinner to, as they put on the Facebook posting, celebrate their caper. And I said, and I posted a note to that saying that if you guys went to a very expensive restaurant, then the show could be called Big Check and Little John. And so, you just can never stop making jokes about that stuff.
No, it's great. And if you guys haven't seen the video, you got to check it out. Is that still up on your page?
I would assume it's still on fox8.com. If you go to fox8.com in Cleveland and search John Rinaldi or Marvin Lewis, I'm sure that's still posted on the website.
I seriously, though, send kudos, because the way I described it to people during my show last week is I said, Marvin Lewis gave his opening remarks, and when he was asked that question by Lil John, it looked like he was a man in church who, A, didn't want to be in church and he was missing part of his favorite game. B, it looked like he had to fart in church and he was trying not to. And
right.
C, it looked like he was going to bust up laughing in church, and he was trying to think of anything to do other than start laughing. You could see all these pained expressions on Marvin Lewis's face. Yes, he played it fantastically, but you could see that quick little smirk, and it was a nope, hold it in, no, I can't do this. It was hilarious. Yes, he delivered a professional response, but it was great.
When John first started to phrase his question, you could tell that Marvin was bracing for, oh, crap, here comes a question from a short person about short people. And couldn't have been further from that. It was a question about, how will they defense Johnny Manziel with his ability to make plays on his feet and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it was awesome.
It was good stuff.
Please check it out. Now I grew up, I was actually born in Parma, Ohio, and raised in Brunswick, and then went out to Bowling Green and now Los Angeles. That's how I got the disease of being a Cleveland sports fan. John, how did you get into this? Are you Ohio born and bred your entire life? Did you play sports in school? How did this all start for you?
I grew up in Euclid, Ohio, which everybody from this area, northeast Ohio, knows. It's just east of Cleveland, so it's like the first suburb east of Cleveland, right on the lake. And went to Euclid High School, and I've been at Fox 8 for almost 35 years now.
Wow!
And so I worked in 3 other markets after I graduated from Ashland College back in the day, and worked in South Dakota, Iowa, and then Buffalo, New York. And in 1980, I got a job here at Fox 8. So I am a Clevelander, and I kind of, I have experienced growing up some of those things that people are still experiencing in terms of when will the Indians ever win a championship. Now, I was 11 years old and actually was at the last championship Cleveland ever had. That was the Browns in '64. And so, I've experienced since '64, an 11-year-old boy waiting for, well, hell, Dad, the Browns are going to win another championship, aren't they? And here we are 50 years later. That hasn't happened.
Wow.
And,
did you just say that did you say you were at that game in '64?
I was at that game. My father, my brother, and I, we had seats in what would be actually behind home plate in the old municipal stadium, which for how the football stadium is laid out were pretty bad seats, because you're in one end zone, you're on the other end of the field from where the first famous and only true dog pound was. That was at the old stadium. It was nicknamed by Hanford Dixon and Frank Minifield, and that's the authentic dog pound. What they have today is an attempt to replicate what was really true football fans just going crazy back in the old days. Back in the old days, I don't know if you know this, each game when there would be a dog house in front of the dog pound. And each game, they would have 3 or 4 guys bring this miniature dog house. They'd roll it into the stadium, and it would be parked somewhere near the dog pound. And the fans would enjoy their game, but unbeknownst to most people was inside the little dog house was a keg. And so it would take 2 or 3 people. It would take three people to bring the thing into the stadium, but it would only take one guy to pull it out at the end of a game because the thing was empty. So, I mean, that's the essence of Cleveland and sports fandom, if you will. So I grew up with all that. And then as a kid, there were no Cleveland Cavaliers until 1970. So,
Right.
I'm 17 years of age. So up until age 17, I actually was a Boston Celtics fan because there was not a basketball team in Cleveland. So I was very familiar with dynasties and Bill Russell, Cousy, Havlicek, all those guys. But I was not, I wasn't a born and bred Bostonian rooting for Boston sports fans. I was a Clevelander who just wanted a basketball team to cheer for. And so in 1970, when the Cavaliers were born, obviously I switched my allegiance to the hometown team. And then since I've been back here since 1980, I've been covering that team, and I'm still waiting as I cover that team today for them to win a championship. So I kind of my story is the story of a lot of people that are in their 40s, 50s, 60s that have seen hardly anything now, and you run into the young people that are that have experienced the Browns, and they kind of are feeling for all of the years that the Browns have existed since 1999. They are feeling the way that Browns fans have felt for many more years because it's just been horrific football for the most part in the new era since Modell moved the team.
Yeah, it really has. It's stake right through the heart. It's really hard recovering from this one, as we've seen a couple ups and downs. A Dennis Northcutt dropped pass.
Yep.
This Johnny Manziel era lands like the Hindenburg. We're still waiting for something to happen there. But I wanted to ask you about the Cavs since you brought that up a moment ago when they debuted in the 70s. In the pre-LeBron James era.
Mm-hmm.
Did you think that the Miracle of Richfield or the Mark Price, Brad Daugherty, Larry Nance Cavs had a legitimate shot at winning an NBA title?
Well, I thought the Miracle of Richfield team absolutely did. Jim Jones, who's now one of the broadcasters for the team, you may recall, broke his foot after they won that epic series that was called the Miracle of Richfield. And that pretty much doomed their chances in the next round, and that was prophetic, and they didn't go anywhere after that. And then the teams that Lenny Wilkins with Daugherty, Price, Hot Rod, Larry Nance, Ronnie Harper, that was as close as it was going to get. And they had some epic battles with Michael that have been well documented, the shot being Michael's coming out party for his Hall of Fame, greatest of all time kind of career that he had. But then from that point on, they just couldn't get past him, and then they traded Ronnie Harper for the rights to Danny Ferry, and the rest is history. They just never seemed to be able to get their feet back underneath them and to march towards the championship caliber. And then obviously things changed the last year and a half before LeBron actually finished his senior year at St. Vincent St. Mary High School and became a Cavalier due to the lottery. That was an exciting time because we knew this kid was can't miss. You could see him from heck. I remember him as a ninth grader with a squeaky voice as a freshman on St. Vincent St. Mary's basketball team, and you just could see the future greatness for what he had coming on his career. And so there was a great deal of excitement in the city knowing that they potentially, and I think they did kind of tank it a bit, so they have greater chances. And they did obviously got LeBron, and the rest is history for his first time. What Cleveland has been very good at is winning lotteries, but I would prefer losing a few lotteries or not even being in lotteries to being in the championship conversation year in and year out, at least for the Cavaliers.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the lotteries. Let's face it. You got Dion Waiters, you got Anthony Bennett, and you got Andrew Wiggins. Hooray, we win lotteries. I'd rather have Anthony Davis or LeBron James. Those don't happen all the time. You rarely get those caliber players. It's a couple a decade that are the real game changers, and you'd rather be good like the Spurs for decades in a row instead of always in the lottery, for sure. And I got a question from Greg. He wants to know, what are the realistic expectations for the Cavs this year? Because before we get to that, I'm sorry, I'm doing this a little backwards, but to set that up, I asked you the previous question about the pre-LeBron James era. Did you think the Cavs had what it took to win a title with LeBron the first time pre-Miami?
I think they did. Obviously, things did not work out. I mean, if LeBron James in only his, let's say, third or fourth year could take the requisite of talent that they had at the time to the NBA Finals, That's pretty remarkable. So you knew you had a talent there that could bring you a championship if you got the right people around him. And so, yeah, I thought they had enough to be able to do it. Their toughest mark was the final year. They just didn't seem, although they won many games, they just didn't seem to have that chemistry or were tough enough to be formidable opponents for their playoff foes in that particular year. And we know what happened when LeBron in Game 5 and LeBron and the Cavs bowing out of the NBA playoffs, and then him obviously after that, starting to get the wheels in motion to going down to Miami. So I thought they had talent. I thought they had enough to go the distance, but I still remember when they signed Shaq. A lot of people thought that was going to do it, and obviously Shaq was just didn't work out, obviously.
Well, I still think before what was it? He broke a finger or something with Glenn Big Baby Davis over in the Celtics.
Yes, he did.
Shaq was giving us 12 points, 12 rebounds. He was putting some hard hits on people and using his 6 fouls wisely. I think he was doing just fine until that injury, and then the whole chemistry fell apart. I don't even know what happened behind the scenes. You've heard all those rumors, and who knows?
Right, tons of rumors, and even when those rumors popped up initially, occasionally I'll give life and send to the wind rumors that come about various things, but for the most part, I just kind of let those fall on deaf ears, and they just didn't work out. And then obviously here we are, part number 2, LeBron 2.0. And chemistry is still an issue, and they're working on it. But it's a little disconcerting when you see them get out to these big leads early, but not able to sustain it. And I think you sustain that by concentrated effort on the defensive end. And obviously, you saw none of that last night when you had people like Shelvin Mack, hitting 6 out of 6 3-pointers, and the other team, I think they had 16 3-pointers, for heaven's sake. So
yeah, I mean they lost by about 30. Yeah,
it's crazy. That's been the recipe in these 2 Cleveland/Atlanta games. Cleveland with 19 franchise record in counter number 1, and then Atlanta goes out and hits 16 of those in encounter number 2. God knows what's going to happen in encounter number 3.
Yeah, we're already seeing a new budding relationship, or rivalry rather, with the Toronto Raptors, and it's interesting to see just the whole NBA season shake out. But back to Greg's question, he was wondering, what are the legitimate expectations for this Cavs team? Some people say, yep, they're going to win a title, and some people say, nope, not a chance, nowhere even close. They're going to go out in the second round. Is the realistic expectation somewhere in between, or should they gel to become a playoff and championship contending team, make the finals, and then it should be a coin flip chance to win a title this year? What should we realistically expect?
I think as the year goes on, you'll see them continue to gel, and I think they will be good enough to get to the finals. Now, beyond that, boy, there's just so many intriguing possibilities for teams to face in the NBA Finals coming from the West. I think it's wide open. Obviously, you have the young buck teams like the Warriors. You have Memphis, who beat them the other night and ended their streak. And then you have the old guard that still might have 1 or 2 good years left to be a championship caliber and fight to the finish type of talent there in San Antonio. So there's a lot of possibilities from the West. And then things are going to be even more intriguing. Now you've got Rondo over there in Dallas. We'll see how that kind of shakes itself out. But the Cavs have more chemistry to be worked upon, and the Cavaliers still need to get a presence underneath, some kind of wouldn't necessarily call him a shot blocker, but just someone that can protect the rim in some way, shape, or form. Because try as they might, I don't think they don't have a team full of long stretch forwards or long, quick guys playing the 3 position that can defend. They've got LeBron, and I'm not sure if LeBron's at the caliber of a defender that he was 2-3 years ago. He's still damn good, but they can remind you at times of when they faced the Orlando Magic back in the LeBron 1.0 era, and they couldn't beat those guys because they could not defend the edges. They couldn't get to the perimeter to stop their 3-point shooting. You saw that last night. Atlanta had free range, and I don't know if it was because They didn't have the people that could physically get out and contest those, or if the will to contest those shots was there. It looked like it was probably more of the latter than it was the former. Obviously the ingredients are here. You got three outstanding players, but they're all feeling themselves out in the roles that they're in now, and those will evolve as the year goes on. And I think there continue to be bumps. I don't think many people saw them. They're 14-10. I think maybe people saw them, maybe, I don't know, let's say 19-4 or something of that nature, not necessarily 14-10.
It was a strange start.
The ingredients are here.
It was a strange start to the season.
It was, and the 8-game streak gave you some faith that they're starting to figure it out. But there's so many new things here. It's the head coach getting used to rotations. The head coach getting used to 48 minutes per instead of 40 games. The head coach getting used to the referees and how guys call different games and which guys, what types of efforts he's getting from certain individuals out on the floor. And then also dealing with somewhat of a political maneuvering that you have to do. You're the head coach, but you also have the most influential player on the planet. Maybe Kobe might be co-influential in terms of how they throw their weight around. You got LeBron out there that's kind of, part police sergeant, part coach, part cheerleader, part big brother, all these different things that constitute what LeBron James is. And there you are, you're David Blatt. You've never coached in the NBA before, and you're trying to feel your way through. So there's a lot of things that, are a lot of pieces and parts that need to come together. And I feel pretty good that they will, but, it's still, I'd say if you're not seeing a well-oiled machine by the end of January, let's say, getting into February, then you start to wonder, okay, what's really going on here? Is it because the other teams have, been together, are more cohesive? I don't know. But right now you have an opportunity for this to be a very, very good team, but there's still a lot of pieces and parts that have to get worked so they can work out together.
Yeah, you see the difference between Steve Kerr over in Golden State compared to Derek Fisher with the Knicks. And sometimes you hear that in basketball, the head coaches aren't really that important. Actually, in most sports, you hear a lot of times that the head coach is not as important as a lot of people think that they are. And then there are some people that say, hey, the head coach is everything. The head coach, the manager,
right.
The Terry Franconas, the Mike Pettins, that these guys are absolutely crucial. And, of course, who can fault someone that looks at Greg Popovich and says, hey, yeah, look what he's done for the Spurs. Of course, he's had talent as well. And the question about David Blatt, do you think he's on a short leash, or do you think that they're gonna give him enough time? Because really, pairing LeBron James, Kevin Love, and Kyrie Irving with a rookie coach, that's a very interesting move. I know they went for Calipari. Maybe he would reconsider if he knew he had a big three. Who knows? Especially the boatload of money they threw at him. I mean, do you think David Blatt's going to have enough time to learn all of this, or do you think he might be on the hot seat already with a lot of people saying, hey, I'll take that Cavs job?
No, I'm sure there are people that would be interested in the opportunity to coach, but I haven't heard anything of that nature. And I think, the leash is very, very long. And so you just let him continue to learn the game. And I think he's very good at what he's doing, but he could be a lot better. So you just let that go along. But I don't, in my estimation, think that there's anything like a short leash with David. Really don't.
Final question with the Cavaliers. We keep hearing about Ray Allen maybe coming over to the team, that maybe Dion isn't the right fit and he'll get shipped, and something awesome is going to come from this Brendan Haywood contract. Any thoughts on those three players? Could they be moved? Do you expect them to join, get shipped off, etc.?
Yeah, I think they're going to use the Haywood thing in the next off season. So I think that will be used, and that's a great possibility. And as far as Ray Allen, it's all in his, it's his court. We hear the Cavs are a favorite. We hear there's a few other teams as well. But again, that's just, here we are in December. We're only 20-ish games into the season. I would suspect it'll, as you guys have probably heard out there, it will become more crystallized in early February, and then that's when I would suspect to see, him signing with whoever works out best for him, whatever's the best fit, and go from there. And his past relationships with other guys he's played with,
And we'll see. Obviously, he's played with LeBron those few years down there in Miami, and so you just take that as an LeBron's one of the best salesmen there is. So
yeah.
you hope that he can close the deal. You got Mike Miller and James Jones and stuff. They got a lot of shooters. I like this Joe Harris kid too. But
and Dellavedova, for that matter, you've seen a few moments from him. Good defense too.
Yeah. I like Delly. Though he's been a little down lately. Obviously, he had the injury, and he came back from that, and then he got a little sick, lost some weight, so he's kind of getting his game together. I would suspect just on a game note type of a thing here. I think we'll see Mike Miller tomorrow. Last night he wasn't ready with his kind of still got that stiff neck from the concussion, so I think we'll see him tomorrow night. Should be interesting.
Well, one of the things that we definitely don't have figured out is the Cleveland Browns quarterback situation. We started off pretty hot, had a really good beginning of the season, and really the wheels have fallen off of the Cleveland Browns. Brian Hoyer, some people said he never really had a fair shot this whole season. They were wondering if after the bye week, a few games into the year, if we'd see Johnny Manziel. What was that, game 4 or 5 or whatever?
Yeah.
And turns out Brian Hoyer played above expectations. He played good to decent football for most of the season, and then really, I don't know if it's just him looking for a contract, all the buzz, the hype, or maybe just he's plummeting back to earth. He's not that good. That's why he's a journeyman quarterback. I mean, really, John, what are we looking at with this? How did the wheels fall off so quickly? And another question from Brandon, what are we supposed to do? And what do we expect for the final 2 games from Johnny Manziel after the dud that he laid?
Well, I think what happened with Hoyer, and we all saw it. It's not like there's no documentation of it. I think that folks got a little bit more schooled on him, and he was just victim of. Initially, the offense was running the football pretty well. They lose Alex Mack, and they just never seem to be able to gain the ability to be consistent running that ball. And without that ability to run it, it took away that play action. And so I think Brian, played well for about 7 or 8 games, and then, the people started to see his abilities, or in some cases his lack thereof. And what we saw early on, his decisiveness, I think we first saw that, his indecisiveness, we first saw that in the Jacksonville game. And we saw a lot of people figured that would be a big win for the Browns, but the offensive line could not deal with the boys up front. And I think that rattled Brian, and it was tough for him to kind of gain his mojo back after that. And then, obviously, with each week that came along, at the apex of his abilities, when they were 7-3, I think it was, the apex of that, people were talking a lot about contract, and I think that stuff kind of just started to get in the way. It was too much noise. And then, while they're talking about contract, they're also talking about, well, when are we going to see the rookie? Should the rookie be playing this year? And I'm telling you, every day you're out there, or every day that you're around the team or whatever, there's always the specter of when was Johnny going to play. And I think that kind of weighed on Brian, and a lot of things just kind of built up, and the team wasn't performing well around him. The defense was allowing people to run at will, and they just got to the point where after 4 straight games of Brian not playing well, with the exception of that one drive that got them the field goal to beat the Falcons, they just said, the hue and cry in the building was enough for them just to make the switch and see what the kid can do. And I've said on the weekly on the radio or on TV as well that, I would have played Brian Hoyer for the whole year to show commitment, to show that you are in this for the long haul, and that, although it was possible you could get a playoff slot this year, it was probably not as probable, and so you would just continue to grow with Brian and then get the kid ready for the future. And obviously we saw Johnny. It was just the most horrific, first performance that you would ever imagine. But obviously everybody around him contributed to that kid having a bad day.
Yeah,
I don't know what he's going to do. I have no idea how he's going to come out of this, because you hear so much from people that say, his feel in the pocket isn't that great. His size obviously is lacking. His arm is okay, but not great. And that you can't have this kid just running around like a chicken with his head come off, or what does Pettin say? You don't want a guy just to take the snap and then pretend it's a punt return. And you want a guy that can stand in there. And I'm not sure if he's got all the tools to be able to do that. I like to see if he can, but it's going to be very difficult for him to be highly successful. I really think that. And you can say, okay, well, Tebow was out of the league in 2-3 years, and Tebow had success because you couldn't tackle him. I mean, this was like a fullback playing quarterback, whereas Johnny Manziel, you saw guys that were being held by by a Browns offensive lineman reaching around and bringing Johnny down with one arm. So there's not that size doesn't scare you. His innate ability to make plays, it's still there. That's what made him great in college. We will see if that can translate to the NFL, but so far, test number one, it couldn't. It just didn't.
Yeah, it was I wouldn't say incomplete because he finished the game, but man, it's almost like he slept through the exam, or I don't know how to explain it. It was a bad debut, and it was so bad. I don't know if you happen to catch this article by Greg Couch. That's a last name we might remember as Cleveland Browns fans of lousy quarterback play, although Tim Couch wasn't really given many tools, such as an offensive line, to work with either. I digress, but this Greg Couch wrote an article a couple days ago from Rolling Stone asking if Johnny Football was set up to fail in his first start. And his point is it's not as crazy as you might think. Do you think that there's any because I'll tell you what, John, I think I cheered with my group of Browns fans maybe twice that whole game. I just kind of sat there. There was almost nothing to cheer for. It reminded me of the Cavs home opener when LeBron came back. It was all hype, and then a complete flop. Do you think there's any chance?
Set up to fail. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything to that. I just think that he got no favors from his team, and even when he was out trying to make a play, he throws the ball to Hawkins. Hawkins drops it. That's a 20-yard play. That's a first down. And so it just snowballed. But first of all, without getting too descriptive in that game, it started out with the Bengals just punching the Browns in the mouth for about 5.5 to 6 minutes.
Yeah, it was 10-0 before we even started. 10-0, and we just woke up like, huh? Well, okay. It's like 1:30 in the afternoon, and now you're finally seeing your offense on the field. Where have they been? Well, it's because your defense allowed them to drive for 14 plays, convert a fourth down on that slant to A.J. Green, and so you start the kid out on the field, and it's 7-0 already. So not that I expect every quarterback to be given a 10-0 be given a hard lead in their first game ever and be even more successful after that. It just was a recipe for disaster. I think that was even said on the broadcast, and we'll see what happens. I really have no idea what this young guy's going to do, but I'm excited just to see it. I don't want to be excited, like you're excited to watch an IndyCar race and there's a crash or anything like that. I just want to see this kid be successful because I want to stop the merry-go-round, the carousel that has quarterback A, B, and C every year, and it just changes. Keep throwing different names Tim
in there.
Couch, Kelly Holcomb. If you have two quarterbacks, you have none. So Brian Hoyer is a goner. Absolutely no way he comes back, and we don't trade Manziel in the offseason. Is that how you see it playing out?
I mean, I lean towards him not being back. I think there's going to be some teams that will say, can you come in and compete for a starting job here? And he'll probably want to have that first start because Johnny's not going anywhere. Even if Johnny were to sprain his knee, let's say, and then, okay, now who are you going to have? Connor Shaw as your quarterback? I don't even know if Brian would want to continue with Johnny looking over his shoulder. So, yeah, it could be back to square one. Or you go for a veteran quarterback that's got some experience in the league. People were throwing Cutler's name around today, obviously, because he's the latest quarterback to, come upon fallen times. That guy's got 28 touchdown passes this year, by the way. I just thought I'd throw that out. I think the Browns have 11. So, you just don't want the merry-go-round to continue. Just, have a quarterback, stay with him, build a team around the quarterback. I thought they were doing a pretty good job. This regime has made some pretty good moves on getting young, undiscovered talent and letting them learn their craft and get better. And so I just don't want to see some more herky-jerky new regime, do this, do that. I'd like to see some continuity and just build it for the long haul.
Well, I'm currently working on a book. It's called There's Only Next Year. People say there's always next year. No, there's only next year. It's like that Joe's Crab Shack place I worked at on the side of the building. It said, free crab tomorrow. And if you came back tomorrow, it said, free crab tomorrow. There's only tomorrow. There's never today. And I'm going to be taking excerpts from, over the past 3.5 years. I'm definitely going to be telling your story being in the Cleveland Indians locker room when they took down the champagne barriers and they had everything guarded off with plastic. Then they wheeled the trophy out. It's just it was a surreal story when you told me, and I'm going to pull those things out from various interviews I've had over the past few years. But Ben, somebody who's been on the program before, he wanted me to ask you, why do we still bother? Why do we still bother? And because the premise of my book, John, is that something happens to the psyche, to the soul, to the general mood, the zeitgeist, the mood or feeling of the times of the greater Ohio area when you have 3 generations of people that just grow up saying, we coulda, we shoulda, we always screw this up, we always find a way to, I'll bet you just wait, they're going to miss a kick. And it's almost like we're now, it's becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy. And Ben wanted to know from you, why should we still bother?
Because it's in us. It's, I've thought about that a lot, and I've been asked it, and I think it's because of who we are as people in Cleveland, Northeast Ohio. Tough region. People work hard for their money. Hey, there should be a song with that. People work hard for their money. People relish the opportunity to get out and to be a part of something that can be successful and want for things to be successful. And so we keep hoping that the newest quarterback or that the newest basketball star or this baseball pitcher is going to be the person that takes us to that next championship that's been eluding us for so many years. And it's all just part of our psyche. We're tough people, and maybe we're gullible, maybe we're dumb, maybe we're stupid, that we keep coming back for more. Maybe we're all lemmings and we're just, going off the edge of a cliff for all we know. But we want to win, and we want to be part of something great, and we have faith, and we're forgiving people. And in Northeast Ohio, there's been so many things to forgive people for in sports that we are not reticent to do it one more time and to say, all right, this regime just didn't work out. But hey, wait, if we can only get this guy and then trade for so-and-so and maybe hit the lotto, we'll be right back in it. And in reality, things in the past 50 years have not worked out for any of the sports teams, but you always feel, as you mentioned, next year. It's gonna happen next year. I really believe it's next year. And that the jokes about the factory of sadness, thank you, Mike Polk, the jokes about it, they, in some ways, become self-fulfilling prophecies. And I remember joking, leaving a Browns game earlier this year after they'd won a few in the row. They had a good year this year at the home stadium. And joking to someone saying, hey, maybe it's no longer the factory, And then this past Sunday, several members of the media and some fans texting me or tweeting, hey, it's back to the good old factory of sadness again. And almost a certain familiarity and feeling of comfort that comes with that. But in reality, you're suffering because your team's not successful again. And so it just keeps going year after year after year. And one of these years, as someone once said, or thousands have said, it will come true. There will be a championship. Yeah, that's what you got to believe.
It's that factory of sadness, the mistake by the lake that Tim Carver would never shut the heck up about when we were in the World Series. Like, leave it alone, McCarver. God. And I guess, you having, what was it? You said 30 or 35 years of experience here in Cleveland in sportscasting since 1980, so yeah, about 35. What was the most disappointing moment? I don't know if we should go sport to sport or just overall. Was there a most disappointing time that was more of a sucker punch? Because you're obviously a fan. It would be hard to do this if you didn't care and if you didn't really understand the life lessons in sports, that you don't tear up at an E60, some of these things.
Well, I'll leave you with this because I'm a little up against the 8 ball, still getting ready for my late show. I would, by far, I would go with the ninth inning down in Joe Robbie Stadium in Miami in 1997, because for once across the region, people had that feeling that it was happening and nothing bad was going to happen, and all those heartaches from the past were going to be like somehow stopped at the border and not allowed across the border, and that they would seal the deal and they would win the championship. And you felt it. You felt that it's happening. And everybody in Northeast Ohio, or all of us that were down there at the stadium covering it, you had that feeling it was taking place. And you started to gird yourself up for, what will this be like to cover a team that's won something? Or if you're a fan, what's this going to be like to just actually celebrate it? Now, I know there were fans that weren't even, were plugging their ears and covering their eyes because of past calamities that have befallen the city of Cleveland in sports. But that's when it was like so close, and you actually tasted it. You had a morsel in your mouth, and it tasted oh so good, because it was being fulfilled with something that was successful in sports. And then it just turned out to be just another sandwich that had way too much sodium in it, and you spit it out. It was that close. It was that close.
Hey,
that was tough.
Well, I'll tell you what. You got to get going. I'm wondering if you have time for like 2 or 3 rapid fire questions. I only want a Twitter 140 character response from you, because we have a few questions here. Who's going to be the first team to win it all for Cleveland first?
All right, you want 140 or less? Okay.
Yep. Twitter response.
All right. Cavs, because within the next 2 seasons they'll figure it out and they'll win it all.
Okay, so next 2 seasons is the window we have there. Our friend Zach wanted to know, will the Tribe be a contender with the addition of Brandon Moss, or do we still need a right-handed power bat?
Definitely need a right-handed power bat. Not necessarily, definitely need a right-handed power bat. I like the bullpen, and the starting rotation with Klubs at the top will be pretty good.
Oh, Klubs is so good last year. Kudos to him. Swisher, do we trade him? Do we give him another shot?
Because of his contract and his knees, I think you're stuck with him. I'm not sure they can pay most of his salary to ship him away.
Yeah, or maybe dump him or something, pay half of it. I don't know how they can do that. Rob Troutman wanted to know, by the way, he called you the best in the business, and he said, in all your years in Cleveland, who's been the best coach out of all the teams you've witnessed? 35 years, 3 teams. Who's the best coach that you've seen in our time in Cleveland? I thought that was a great question, too.
I could break it down in a couple categories. The most fun was Sam, by far. The most fun was Sam. The probably top to bottom, the best I've been around has been Tito, and that's only just for the last 2 years. So those guys would be way at the top of my list. The guy I enjoyed discussing sports with the most was Lenny Wilkins. He actually used to be he used to come on our set and do a piece every week with me and Casey Coleman. And I never enjoyed covering basketball as much as when I covered Lenny, because he was just such a joy to be around and to talk basketball with and strategy. It would kind of like be like being a San Antonio sportscaster and getting a chance to like have pop to yourself, like one day a week. It was pretty damn cool.
Oh, that would be incredible. But back to the Indians, will they make the playoffs this year?
I think they will. Absolutely, I think they will.
And then finally, and we'll let you get on to the late show, Ohio State. This is another one from Greg. He said Ohio State looked unstoppable against the Badgers. I mean, hell, 59-0. Give me a break. Are they peaking at the right time, or is Alabama and the SEC just too dominant?
I don't think they're too dominant. I think they're peaking at the right time. I look for a classic 30-something to 30-something game in the Sugar.
And who's going to win in the Sugar?
I'll take the Ohio State Buckeyes.
All right. I'll take it then. Well, hey, I'll tell you what. I won't keep you much longer. I appreciate you jumping back into the Unhappy Hour. It's always a pleasure having you in. We'll try not to – I really can't remember the last time we've had you a part of the program, so we'll have to do this again.
It has been a while, my friend.
It really – I swear, we were talking Colt McCoy. There might have been one in between there, but for the love of God, I remember that Colt McCoy talk, and that was a while ago. So anyway, seriously, please tell your producers kudos on the Lil John thing. It absolutely cracked me up. Keep up the good work and go after Emmy number 12. And good luck in your continuation of your running. That's what is it? You're doing marathons and stuff?
I do actually. They're called ultra marathons, and they are distances beyond marathons. So they're like 50-mile runs, 100-mile runs, and they're all on trails. So I'm out climbing hills and running through mud and gravel and stuff. So.
Man, what is the phrase? Is it sadist or masochist that just appreciates pain? You've been 35 years a Cleveland sportscaster, and you do these ridiculous Iron Man things. Like you just must be really Catholic or something, and really punish yourself. I don't. Now we're getting into politics. I said I wasn't going to do that. My bad. Just kidding.
There you go. But no, I'm basically too dumb. I'm a very dumb, stupid, stubborn guy. That's my problem.
All right, and then
that's why I do that stuff.
Then we'll wrap it up right there with Big Chuck and Little John. We'll do a Pollock joke. No, I'm just kidding. We won't do that either. But anyway, John, I really appreciate your time. Have a good show tonight, and like I said, we will do this again, and it won't be this long between the next time. I appreciate your time, and you have a great night, sir.
Okay, you guys have a good one. Thanks very much. Talk to you later.
All right, take care. There he goes, everybody.
Bye.
Make sure you're following him on Twitter. He's at John Telich. That's JohnTelich, and the number 8, John Telich 8. You can find him there. Yeah, he's been a staple in Cleveland sports for a very long time. And yes, it's just like Rob Troutman said, he's one of the best in the business, hands down, and we're thrilled that he could be a part of our program again today. So for everybody here at the TNAM Radio Network, my name's Brian Engelman. I appreciate you. I love you. And we will talk again soon. And before we do, check out our homepage, thenewamericanmedia.com. In between, make sure you're checking these out. Go to youtube.com/thenewamericanmedia and click subscribe. On Twitter, we're at American_media_. And on Facebook, do a search for The New American Media and like the page. So, like I said, hey, we have a lot to look forward to as Indians, Cavs, Browns, and Buckeye fans here. We really do. We have a lot going on for us. And I think John really nailed it. I think he really nailed it that Alex Mack injury was way more damaging than we even knew at the time. The whole team changed after that. But really, whether it's the Browns, the Indians, the Cavs, or the Buckeyes, we have a lot trending in the right direction right now. And I am thankful for that. So, we'll be talking with you again soon. This was a special edition of the show today. We definitely fire up the program and bring it to you on different days, depending on when we can get our favorite guests involved. Definitely John Telich, one of our favorite guests. Come on, 35 years of insight. I mean, who else is going to combine, Lenny Wilkins with Sam Ratigliano and, talking about Tito Francona right now. It's, hey, if you're talking Cleveland sports, that's the type of person that you want to join the program. I do want to thank you guys, the people that sent the questions, Zach Barris, who's a regular contributor over here, Ben Weinbrower, Rob Troutman, Brandon Odell, and Greg Moore. All of these guys have been contributors. Ben Weinbrower's been on the program. Both agree to disagree on the Unhappy Hour. Rob Troutman has been on talking a lot of Browns and definitely Cleveland sports in general. Greg Moore has been on talking Browns this year. He's new to the team. Brandon Odell was part of our lineup for Strictly Browns. It was the first season or two when he was a part of that. And really, thank you guys for all the great questions. You really helped expand the conversation here a little bit. So, and that's the point. I'll leave it at this. I'll leave it at this. The new American media is a place where you make it what you want it to be. You're an Indians, Cavs, a Browns fan, a Buckeye fan, a Cavs fan. Cool. So tweet us during the games. Tag at American_media_. Send us some messages. Jump on the radio show. I mean, seriously, send us some messages. We'll bring you on. There's a lot of ways. We want you to take control of this. Come on. You always want to participate in the conversation, especially when it's your favorite sports team. So jump on and have the call, have the conversation. Tweet us, get your thoughts across. Just tag at American_media_, and if it's good, we'll retweet it. I mean, it's pretty simple. We're building our network here to be everything you want it to be. We are homers, hands down. We're gonna root for our hometown team. It's not gonna change. It's just not gonna change, and that's just the way it's gonna be. And like John Telich was just saying, I don't know. Why do we do it? Because Clevelanders, because we're tough people. Why do we do it? Because we're forgiving people. Why do we do it? Because we're stupid. I mean, it's the human experience. We're all of these things. It's multifaceted. And there's something redeeming. There's something to strive for, to be the best at something. I don't know why it hasn't happened for so long. I don't really know how we've reached 50 years without a title. With the Indians or the Browns and the Cavs since 1970. I don't get that, but I also don't accept mediocrity. So I know that we're capable of this. Oh, and it is going to be so sweet when we win a title. Just like John was saying when he was down Joe Robbie Stadium with the Marlins and the Indians in Game 7 in the 9th inning in the World Series, and we had it locked up and then we let it slip away. You just gotta... When we get our title, it's going to be sweet, and we want all of you guys and girls out there to be a part of it together. So all of our social media, sign up, jump in, leave your comments. We appreciate each and every one of you, and we want this to be the place. This is the place that I started the show 3.5 years ago so that I could still have my sports moments and my conversations, with my dad and with my uncle and with my friends and with people online that I hadn't met yet, but we're going back and forth and debating who should start a quarterback or this, that, and the other. This is a place where we do that, and it doesn't matter where you're at on the globe. You could be in North Korea hacking into things because you don't like that movie, The Interview. But if you're a Browns fan, you can join us and talk about it. No, but I mean, wherever you happen to be in the world, in the United States or in the world, join the show. This is a place for all of us to invite all of our friends, and let's leave all of our comments on those YouTube pages and, send the tweets and etc. So, anyhow, that's all I got. I'm going to sign out for today. Like I said earlier, I appreciate you. I love you. Peace.
The Unhappy Hour on the new AmericanMedia.com.